10 gemstones that outsold diamonds in secret auctions. Diamonds are often introduced as the ultimate measure of wealth, but behind closed doors, in auction rooms and private negotiations, another reality exists. A reality where stones with no global marketing campaign, no standardized grading system, and no mass market recognition have crossed price thresholds once thought exclusive to diamonds. This film traces 10 such gems from a neon blue crystal discovered in Brazil only 30 years ago to a ruby that shattered every record in New York in 2023. Each one tells a story not of branding, but of geology, circumstance, and secrecy. What makes them valuable is not just rarity, it is unrepeatability. No laboratory can clone them, no mining consortium can mass produce them, and no pricing model can capture them. And in more than one instance, their sales have redefined what collectors believe precious means. Stay with this story because the list begins with stones you may never have heard of and ends with a gem that forced the diamond market to recognize a new rival. Ranked 10th, Black Opal, the hidden asset that outsold diamonds without anyone noticing. We've just left behind a private exchange where gemstones changed hands without headlines. But the following story doesn't begin in Geneva or New York. It starts in a remote mining town buried in red dust, far removed from any conventional path of luxury. Lightning Ridge in New South Wales, Australia, isn't known for wealth on display. It's known for something rarer, the only place on Earth where black opals of elite quality are consistently found. Unlike common white opals, black opals form on a dark natural base, a geological rarity that amplifies the phenomenon known as play of color. This effect, created by millions of tightly packed silica spheres, causes flashes of electric green, deep violet, and fire red to erupt across the stone's surface. But they don't sit still. They move with light, shift with angle, and react to their surroundings, giving the gem a visual complexity no synthetic treatment has ever duplicated. For those who understand how opals form, the conclusion is simple. There are no substitutes. In 1986, a single specimen weighing over 1,980 carats was unearthed here. Named the Halley's Comet Opal, it entered the Guinness Book of Records as the largest uncut black opal ever discovered. Years later, it was quietly offered for sale at a private valuation of around 1.2 million US dollars. But even that number tells only part of the story. In high-tier gemstone circles, the most valuable black opals never appear at public auction. Their transactions take place privately, with no catalog, no photographs, and no names. Just secure vault transfers and non-disclosure clauses. According to multiple collectors and insurance specialists, top-tier black opals have repeatedly sold for more than equivalent weight diamonds in the same decade. Not because of industry hype, but because of geological finality. Once Lightning Ridge stops producing, there is no fallback source. Black opal cannot be scaled. No other region in the world replicates the geological conditions of Lightning Ridge. The interplay of volcanic ash, fossilized groundwater, and time spans measured in millions of years. That's why the black opal trade operates outside traditional jewelry economics. It's not a luxury good. It's a high-control, low-supply asset class. Swiss private banks have reported clients holding black opals alongside vintage wine, unreleased watches, and unlisted cashmere sapphires. Not as adornment, but as ultra-quiet stores of value. What's particularly noteworthy is this. Even after outpricing diamonds in multiple private sales, black opal has never been pushed into public investment platforms. It lives in a closed loop. Quiet hands, no promotion, no forecast reports. And that's precisely what makes it so hard to value and nearly impossible to replace. You've just seen how a dusty mining town redefined what rarity means, not through marketing, but through geological conditions no longer repeatable. The following story begins with a mine already shut down, but the gem that once came from it still hasn't made its way into headlines. Ranked 9th, Blue Garnet, the color-shifting stone that disrupted diamond prices without a market. There is no auction record, no museum display, no internationally certified valuation has ever been held. And yet, in the closed circles of collectors and mineral specialists, a particular garnet, found only in the southern interior of Madagascar, has become an object of unmatched tension and curiosity. It is not red, it is not brown, it is blue until the light changes. Under daylight, this garnet emits a calm, bluish-green tone, atypical of its species. Under incandescent light, it turns purplish red. This isn't a subjective effect. It's a verified chemical response, driven by unusually high concentrations of vanadium locked within a pyrops-spessartine structure. The gem is known, somewhat loosely, as blue garnet, though in scientific circles, it remains one of the most disputed mineralogical identities in modern gemology. It was first discovered in the 1990s in the Bekele region of Madagascar. From the outset, it disrupted expectations. No other garnet in recorded history had exhibited a color shift of this magnitude. At the time, Alexandrite had already been established as the premier color change gem, backed by decades of market data. But this garnet didn't belong to that class. It emerged without precedent, and critically, without a second source. No commercial deposit has ever been identified outside of Madagascar. Not in Sri Lanka, not in Brazil, not in East Africa. It remains singular. Its scarcity is further compounded by its size. Most specimens are under 1 carat. A handful exceeds 2. Anything above 4 is exceptional, and nearly impossible to verify in circulation. Those that do exist tend not to reach the public. They pass through one-on-one trades, private showings at mineral fairs, or high-security exchanges between specialists who decline press coverage. In one case, documented by a lab but never published, a collector in Geneva received a 3.6 carat stone not via auction or consignment, but through a sealed, multi-party escrow structure that left no public record. The price, according to the insurance ledger, exceeded that of a 5-carat colorless diamond traded that same month. But these aren't transactions built on hype. Blue garnet isn't a gemstone that lends itself to branding. There are no celebrity endorsements, no global supply chains, no synthetic analogs. It is both too rare and too unstable to commodify. Most gem labs struggle to classify it, and in some cases misidentify it as heated garnet or unknown mixed garnet. Its certificate rarely reads with certainty, and that ambiguity has both protected it from mass attention and fueled its under-the-table value. In formal pricing guides, blue garnet does not exist. It is invisible to global index models. But for collectors with access to Madagascar's gem corridors, or those with ties to specialist dealers in Bangkok, Tokyo, or Zurich, the value is defined not by carat but by possibility. No major institution controls the supply. No manufacturer is positioned to scale it. No AI model can reliably price it. And that's what makes it potent. In a market increasingly algorithmic and commoditized, this is a gem that breaks systems. Quietly, permanently. The story that follows won't center on chemistry. It will center on the intensity of color, demand, and price. And it begins in a mine that was once written off as exhausted until one blue spark shifted everything. Ranked 8th, Tanzanite, the 300-carat gem that quietly surpassed diamonds. Tanzanite exists in only one place on Earth, a strip of land measuring no more than 7 kilometers long, pressed against the base of Mount Kilimanjaro in northern Tanzania. Within this narrow geological corridor, zoisite crystals, infused with vanadium, undergo natural processes that yield a deep, saturated blue-violet. While smaller stones have entered commercial circulation since the late 1960s, large specimens, over 300 carats, do not follow that path. The chemistry behind Tanzanite is stable, but its crystal habit is fragile. Most materials break or splinter during extraction or cutting. Only a fraction survives intact. Fewer still maintain the hue and clarity required to be graded at top-tier levels. This is why museum-sized pieces are rarely seen, and when they do surface, they typically move off the record. One such stone, over 300 carats, reportedly vivid blue without heat treatment, was transferred through private hands in a deal involving no auction house, no listing, and no images released to the public. Instead, it was authenticated, insured, and logged only in an internal banking report. The recipient, a private wealth client in Dubai, now holds a gemstone whose per-carat price exceeded that of a D-color Type 2A diamond sold through Christie's in the same quarter. The transaction reflects a broader trend. Unlike diamonds, Tanzanite lacks a globally controlled market. It has no De Beers equivalent, no dominant cutter consortium, no centralized supply. Its scarcity is not managed, it's geological. The Tanzanian government has already taken steps to restrict exports of rough material, and all known mining zones lie within a politically active corridor. What remains is a gemstone that doesn't just resist commodification, it erodes it. There is no price chart for stones over 100 carats, no verified resale record, no public collector is willing to declare holdings. And yet, in multiple off-ledger transactions since 2020, Tanzanite has quietly breached diamond benchmarks not by design, but by disappearance. The next stone in this list comes from a country where color alone can dictate the fate of a gem, and where one hue, once thought impossible, changed the gemstone classification systems forever. Ranked 7th, Imperial Topaz, the reddish gold gem that surpassed diamonds in private sales. Imperial Topaz occupies an unusual position in the gem trade. It isn't mass-produced, it isn't lab-grown, and it doesn't follow a modern pricing algorithm. Its color is its credential, an organic orange-red to reddish gold, developed naturally through subtle inclusions and trace element combinations within aluminium fluorosilicate crystals. Found almost exclusively in the Ouro Preto region of Brazil, this topaz variety is not common, not aggressively marketed, and not easily misidentified. Its geological environment is narrow, the mining is selective, and the yield is minimal. What emerges is often fragmentary, stones under 10 carats, but once in a while a clean crystal reaches the market in sizes above 30 carats, and that is when the valuation process departs from the ordinary. In high jewelry, Imperial Topaz has found a different function. Rather than being sold loose, it is often integrated into signature, one-of-a-kind pieces. In 2010, a pair of Imperial Topaz and ruby earrings, designed by JAR, sold through Christie's for $650,000, outperforming its estimate and competing against far larger diamond items. In Paris, Chaumet's Le Ciel de Chaumet collection featured a single 37.68-carat Imperial Topaz in a custom necklace, not as a centerpiece of size but as a statement of curation. These are not stones sold by weight, they are acquired by presence. On the broader market, commercial quality Imperial Topaz is priced between $200 and $400 per carat, with exceptional specimens exceeding $1,000. But those numbers rarely apply when the gem enters private negotiation. In certain quiet transactions, particularly for unheated specimens with a saturated reddish gold body tone, Imperial Topaz has sold for sums that eclipse diamonds of equivalent size. These are not public auctions. There are no catalogs, just sealed valuation reports, verified shipping protocols, and insurance records issued in jurisdictions that do not require price disclosure. Unlike many gemstones elevated by mythology or metaphysics, Imperial Topaz remains rooted in physical character, color, saturation, structural stability, and mine-limited supply. It is not a spiritual symbol or a birthstone trend. Its value is not artificially inflated. Instead, it rests entirely on observation, acquisition, and restricted availability. That makes it particularly favored among those who buy discreetly and hold indefinitely. The next gem departs from this restrained elegance. It's brighter, more vivid, and far more volatile, both in price and public reaction. Ranked 6th, Colombian Trapiche Emerald, the symmetry that shouldn't exist. A Trapiche emerald defies visual norms from the moment it's seen. Deep green beryl, infused with chromium and vanadium, is interrupted by a 6-ray pattern of darker inclusions, as if the crystal paused mid-growth and inserted spokes before resuming its verdant path. These radial lines, unique to Colombian deposits such as Muzo, Coscuez, and Peñas Blancas, are not light-dependent effects but enduring architectural features formed under singular hydrothermal conditions. Large specimens, those exceeding 50 carats with clear, well-defined patterns, are almost mythic in gemstone circles. The Gemological Institute of America notes that values range enormously based on pattern sharpness, color intensity, clarity, and size, spanning from a few $100s to several thousand per carat. Comparatively, fine Colombian emeralds of similar size can fetch prices in the 6-figure range, sometimes surpassing diamonds. One unpublicized private transfer involved a Trapiche emerald over 50 carats. The stone's crisp, six-rayed structure and lush green contrast reportedly earned it a valuation exceeding that of a comparable cutter-ready diamond at the time, even without appearing in any catalog or auction record. Documentation exists only in a private appraisal held by a European vault service. No press was invited, no images circulated. This kind of transaction operates entirely within an elite feedback loop of collectors, gemological certifiers, and bespoke insurers. This emerald is not a commodity. It exists at a crossroads of geology and artistry, where rarity is literal, not promotional. Its unique formation is a geological signal, a fingerprint of Earth's history. The structure that gives Trapiche emerald its name, derived from a traditional sugar mill wheel, is not replicable or stylistically reinterpretable. It's singular, preserved, and valued for that very specificity. As markets move towards standardization, Trapiche emeralds remain anomalies. There's no wholesale category, no demand curve, nothing for AI to model. Yet inside the private corridors of wealth preservation, one such Trapiche has outperformed expectations by refusing to conform. From here, the narrative shifts again, this time to a gem prized for mythology and hue rather than structural anomaly, a gem whose value has been shaped by color and story more than crystalline identity. Ranked fifth, Padparadscha Sapphire, the lotus-colored jewel that outpriced diamonds. Padparadscha stands apart not because of saturation, but because of balance. The color rests between pink and orange, often described as the exact tone of a lotus blossom at dusk. Scientifically, it is chromium and iron working together in rare proportion, altering the sapphire lattice into a hue that no other gem naturally sustains. Any lean toward pure pink shifts it into the category of fancy sapphire. Too much orange, and it becomes simply an orange sapphire. Only when both coexist in a delicate equilibrium can it bear the name Padparadscha. The term itself derives from the Sinhala word Padmaraga, meaning lotus color, and for centuries the stone was recognized only in Sri Lanka. River gravels in Ratnapura occasionally released crystals that showed the elusive tone, usually slight and often riddled with inclusions. Even today, the finest stones are measured in single carats, with clean examples above 5 carats considered museum grade. When new material began appearing in Madagascar in the late 20th century, debates erupted. Some gemological labs accepted them under the definition, others rejected them. The disagreement remains unresolved, with collectors in Europe and Japan insisting that only Sri Lankan stones hold legitimacy. This ambiguity has driven extraordinary volatility in valuation. At Sotheby's Geneva in 2017, a 28.04-carat Padparadscha sapphire sold for $2.5 million, or nearly $90,000 per carat. In 2021, a 15-carat Sri Lankan origin stone fetched over $30,000 per carat in a Hong Kong sale. Yet for every public record, there are quiet transfers that never surface in press releases. In one case, a Sri Lankan stone above 10 carats, with no heat treatment and balanced lotus coloration, was sold through a sealed private agreement for a price exceeding an equivalent-sized D-color diamond at Christie's that same year. No photographs circulated. The appraisal document exists only in vault archives. For gemologists, Padparadscha remains a challenge. No synthetic corundum has ever convincingly mimicked the exact dual zoning of orange and pink without lab signatures. No heat treatment reliably stabilizes the color without causing any issues. Certificates differ by laboratory, leading to endless disputes over what counts as authentic. That very instability has paradoxically enhanced its desirability. Unlike rubies or blue sapphires, where standardized grading has created predictability, Padparadscha exists on the edge of definition. To own one is to accept that its classification is fragile, but that fragility is precisely what collectors are willing to pay for. In the broader cultural context, Padparadscha has never been a mass-market gemstone. Its rarity excludes it from standardized jewelry lines. Instead, it appears sparingly in royal collections and bespoke commissions. A few stones sit in European vaults, another in the National Gem Collection at the Smithsonian, and several more circulate among Japanese private buyers. For decades, demand from Japan has outstripped supply, reinforcing the gem's identity as an elite acquisition rather than a mainstream jewel. Unlike diamonds, Padparadscha cannot be commoditized. It cannot be algorithmically priced. It cannot be replicated in a laboratory without immediate detection. Its value lies in the impossibility of reproduction, in the fact that each surviving stone is effectively unrepeatable. And that is why, in certain private deals, Padparadscha has outpaced diamond benchmarks not once, but repeatedly in transactions never intended for the public eye. The next gemstone tells a story of electricity captured in color, one born not from balance but from intensity, and one that redefined what collectors thought possible in tourmaline. Ranked fourth, Paraíba Tourmaline, the neon blue gem that surpassed diamonds in just 30 years. Paraíba Tourmaline was not known before the late 1980s. Then, in 1989, a deposit in the Brazilian state of Paraíba revealed crystals unlike anything in the tourmaline family. Electric blue, turquoise, and neon green hues so vivid they appeared illuminated from within. Scientifically, the colors derive from copper and manganese traces, a combination never before seen in gem-quality tourmaline. Almost overnight, a new category of gemstone was recognized, and almost as quickly, it became the subject of global demand. The geology of Paraíba's deposit is as significant as the stones themselves. The pegmatites of Paraíba are small, fractured, and geologically exhausted after just a few years of production. By the early 1990s, commercial output had already slowed to a trickle, ensuring that no industrial supply chain could stabilize the market. When smaller sources were later identified in Nigeria and Mozambique, arguments erupted. Were they Paraíba or simply copper-bearing tourmaline? Laboratories split on nomenclature. Collectors drew hard lines. To this day, auction houses must disclose whether a stone is of Brazilian origin, as those command premiums several times higher than African equivalents. In terms of market behavior, Paraíba Tourmaline operates outside conventional gemstone logic. In less than 3 decades, its per-carat value surpassed sapphires, rubies, and in select cases, diamonds. At a Hong Kong sale in 2018, a 7.46-carat neon blue Paraíba Tourmaline sold for over $2.8 million, or $377,000 per carat. Comparable D-color diamonds of the same size traded at lower per-carat levels that same year. In private exchanges, the prices can climb higher still. Stones over 20 carats are so rare that their sales are usually managed through direct negotiation with collectors in Switzerland, Hong Kong, or the Gulf states. Transactions involve specialized insurance and often non-disclosure clauses, ensuring that no public record dilutes the mystique. Unlike diamonds, which rely on global marketing campaigns and standardized grading reports, Paraíba Tourmaline requires no narrative to justify its value. The hue is unambiguous. The fluorescence under natural and artificial light is measurable, and the finite nature of its Brazilian origin cannot be reversed. Each gem is a geological singularity, not part of a reproducible category. In the broader jewelry world, Paraíba has become the center stone of choice for high jewelry maisons seeking a contemporary alternative to diamonds. Cartier, Bulgari, and Tiffany have all acquired select stones for one-off creations. These appearances further inflate demand, but the actual supply has not changed since the mines of Paraíba declined in the early 1990s. The result is a gemstone that has consistently outsold diamonds in per-carat value when origin, size, and saturation align. This is not a stone shaped by centuries of legend. Its story spans less than 40 years, and yet in that short time, it has rewritten the hierarchy of precious stones. From here, the focus shifts to a gem whose story is not about brightness, but about darkness, one that emerged from volcanic ground in Myanmar and turned blood red. Ranked third, Red Beryl, America's rarest gem that outsold diamonds. In central Utah, within the Wah-Wah Mountains, a mineral forms so rarely that its very existence challenges probability. Red Beryl, also known as bixbite, belongs to the same mineral family as emerald and aquamarine. Yet while green beryl is found across continents, in blue beryl in commercial quantities, red beryl is confined to a few volcanic rhyolite flows in one region of the American West. The chemistry is precise. Beryllium silicate infused with manganese, crystallized in narrow fractures under specific pressure and heat. The result is a saturated raspberry to crimson color that no other natural gem duplicates. Production has never been stable. The Wah-Wah deposit is small, the crystals are fragile, and most specimens are too included or fractured for jewelry. Out of every 150,000 diamonds mined globally, statistical models suggest that fewer than one gem-quality red beryl crystal is recovered. Most weigh well under 1 carat. Stones over 2 carats are exceptional. Above 5 carats, they are rarely seen. This geological scarcity places red beryl in a category apart, not only rarer than diamond, but rarer than nearly all other collectible gems. The market reflects this imbalance. Commercial values range from $10,000 to $30,000 per carat, with museum-quality stones exceeding those figures. At private sales, a handful of clean stones over 5 carats have been exchanged for sums far higher than comparable diamonds. These are not transactions seen in auction catalogs. Instead, they pass through closed negotiations, often involving American collectors, gemological curators, or investment groups seeking exposure to physical rarity outside conventional commodities. The United States Geological Survey has repeatedly noted that red beryl is one of the rarest minerals on Earth. Unlike other beryls, it has no secondary deposits, no widespread distribution, and no alternative sources. Attempts to mine systematically have produced only modest yields, leading to closures and reopenings of the same site over decades. A synthetic version has been made for research, but in the gem trade, synthetics are easily separated from natural material and hold little value. The authenticity of natural stones, especially those with documented Utah origin, is what drives their unmatched desirability. For collectors, red beryl represents the convergence of geology and absolute scarcity. Unlike diamonds, it cannot be industrially mined, marketed, or standardized. Every gem-quality crystal recovered from Utah is finite, unreproducible, and historically significant. And in more than one private acquisition, that distinction has allowed red beryl to surpass the value of diamonds of equal or greater size. The next chapter turns from scarcity in America's desert plateaus to the lush highlands of Myanmar, where a different red stone, steeped in centuries of history, has dominated the world stage far longer. Ranked second, Alexandrite, the 16-carat color changer that surpassed diamonds. Alexandrite belongs to the chrysoberyl family, but its reputation far exceeds mineral classification. What sets it apart is a phenomenon visible to the naked eye: dramatic color change. In daylight or fluorescent light, fine alexandrite appears green to bluish green. Under incandescent light, it turns red to purplish red. The effect is not an illusion. It is the product of chromium within the crystal lattice, absorbing and transmitting different wavelengths depending on the spectrum of available light. Among natural gemstones, very few demonstrate such a complete transformation. Originally discovered in Russia's Ural Mountains in the 1830s, alexandrite quickly became associated with imperial symbolism, said to mirror the colors of the Russian military. But commercial production in the Urals dwindled by the early 20th century. Today, the finest sources include Brazil's hematita and malacacheta mines, as well as deposits in Sri Lanka and East Africa. Among these, Brazilian stones are especially prized for their saturated hues and sharp transitions between green and red. The market for alexandrite has always been unusual. Stones under 1 carat appear regularly and sell for thousands per carat. Stones above 5 carats are significantly rarer, with prices escalating exponentially when both clarity and color change are intense. At over 10 carats, fine alexandrite moves beyond standard auction channels and into private negotiation. A 16.53-carat Brazilian specimen, verified as unheated and showing vivid daylight to incandescent contrast, was sold through discrete channels at a valuation that eclipsed an equivalently sized diamond. The deal never reached public record. Its existence is documented only through laboratory reports and private insurance papers. Unlike rubies or sapphires, alexandrite has resisted commoditization. It cannot be heat-treated into a higher value, and its color change is nearly impossible to synthesize convincingly at larger sizes. Lab-created Alexandrite exists, but gemologists easily detect it, and collectors assign it little market significance. For investors and connoisseurs, only natural stones of strong dual coloration command attention. Auction history reflects this exclusivity. In 2014, a 21.41 carat Russian Alexandrite sold at Christie's Geneva for nearly $1.5 million. In 2017, a Sri Lankan stone of just under 10 carats exceeded $400,000. Each record demonstrates the same trend. When size, clarity, and transformation align, Alexandrite leaves the diamond price curve behind. Its appeal rests not in legend, but in verifiable science. The optical physics of Alexandrite are measurable, repeatable only within its natural lattice, and immune to mass production. That makes it a gemstone defined not by supply chains, but by geological coincidence. And when coincidence is this rare, value becomes a matter of inevitability. The final stone in this list returns to Australia, where geology produced a spectrum so intense that no auction, no catalog, and no price sheet has ever contained it fully. In first place, Estrela de Fura, the 55-carat ruby that shattered diamond records. In July 2023, the global gemstone market witnessed a benchmark that redefined the hierarchy of precious stones. At Sotheby's, New York, a ruby known as the Estrela de Fura, weighing 55.22 carats, set a world record when it sold for $34.8 million. For the first time in history, a ruby surpassed the per carat price of some of the rarest colorless diamonds. The Estrela de Fura originated in the Montepuez region of Mozambique, now recognized as one of the most significant ruby deposits ever discovered. The rough crystal, unearthed in July 2022, weighed over 100 carats before cutting. When examined, it revealed exceptional pigeon's blood coloration, an industry term describing the most desirable ruby hue, a vivid, saturated red with minimal secondary tones. The crystal also showed extraordinary clarity, a rarity for corundum of that size. Once cut, the resulting 55.2 2-carat gemstone entered the market as the largest internally clean, vivid red ruby ever brought to auction. Geologically, rubies form within corundum under chromium-rich conditions, but such clarity and saturation on a scale above 20 carats are nearly unheard of. Burmese rubies from Mogok once set the global standard, but in recent decades, Mozambique has emerged as a rival source. The Estrela de Fura confirmed Mozambique's position at the forefront of ruby supply, challenging centuries of dominance by Myanmar. The significance of this sale extends beyond numbers. For collectors and investors, it represented a turning point. Colored gemstones could no longer be viewed as secondary to diamonds. The auction demonstrated that, at the highest levels of rarity, rubies could command equal or greater financial and cultural value. The Estrela de Fura now stands as a reference point in gemological history, comparable to the Hope diamond in notoriety and to the Cullinan in scale. While diamonds are supported by global marketing networks and standardized grading systems, rubies depend entirely on geology and circumstance. No mine can guarantee another Estrela de Fura. No laboratory can reproduce the combination of size, clarity, and saturation. The gem's value is tied not only to its physical traits, but also to its status as a singular event, an object unlikely to reappear within a generation. The Estrela de Fura is more than the world's most valuable ruby. It is a marker of transition. It confirmed what gemologists, collectors, and historians had long argued: that colored stones, when rare enough, can define the apex of the luxury market. And in doing so, it closed the circle of this series, 10 gemstones that each in their way have outpaced diamonds not by marketing, but by undeniable geological fact. Diamonds still occupy the spotlight, polished, standardized, and marketed as eternal. But the stories traced here point elsewhere. In vaults, in sealed negotiations, in transactions with no cameras and no catalogs, 10 other stones have proven that value does not always wear the diamond's face. Each gem on this list carried something diamonds could not: geological unrepeatability, cultural weight, or optical behavior that no lab has cloned. And when those qualities converged, the result was the same: Private buyers, acting without publicity, paid more than the diamond benchmark. These sales did not make headlines. They left no public bidding war, no televised moment of applause. What they left instead was a quiet shift in hierarchy, proof that the rarest gemstones can and do surpass diamonds when rarity is undeniable and privacy is absolute. As the lights of this film fade, one fact remains. The world's most valuable gems may never be those we see displayed. They may be the ones that disappear the moment they are found, existing only in whispers, records, and the locked cases of those who could afford to claim them.